there's more than one way to do everything. My way may not always be the best. It's just the way I learned or the habits I've gotten into for good or bad. Okay. Some of my techniques are older or outdated. That is because I am old. And I learned when I was young. So, yeah, if you want to go through and just fill them all out when it happens. Well, no, that way. Peter's normally the slides are set up to come on one at a time. I'm going because Peter has to control them. I'm going to let him make it easy on himself. Some of my, there are going to be some things that I miss out on, either on purpose or by accident. I don't cover arrays because I don't really use them that often, but I will just mention them briefly. There are other things that I've been in a hurry to do it and busy with other things that haven't been done. Go ahead. All right. So the topic we're covering, why scripting. We're going to cover the reasons you want to do shell scripting, the shebang line, and there's a reference to me being old because I couldn't resist. Variables, some of the special variables, and I'll explain those. User input, specifically the read command. Conditional handling. Hold on. I know. Okay, so if you go, there's an arrow down. If you look, yeah. Now, if you want, I can plug this in. Sorry. Okay, so go ahead and fill that in. All right, so we'll go through conditional handling, select case, which creates a text menu, loops, and finally functions. I won't describe any functions. I haven't written any, but most of what we're doing can be functions. Okay. All right, so why script? Scripting allows you to run a series of commands with just one command. You can build out a long, complicated command, or in the case of what got me into shell scripting, you can create a simple command that you just can't quite get it right. One thing, I don't know why it took me so long to realize this, when creating a simple, I kept putting the target first and then the source, and it annoyed me. Same with tar, so I wrote a little wrapper, asked me what the source was and what the target was, and put it in the right order for me until I finally remembered how to do it. One of those things feeble mind could not deal with. It'll allow you to run commands that depend on specific conditions or results, thus if statements, for loops, etc. You can run repetitive commands if you have a nice series of commands that you do every day, over and over again. Write a script, you only have to enter a single command. And as I used to work for Comcast, and I really got along well there because I am lazy, and they kept saying a lazy admin is a good admin, so let your scripts do the work for you. If you have things you do every day, you come into work, you check certain things every day, put it in script, and you only have to run one command and it does everything it needs to do. Any question? Other reasons why you might want to script something? Right. Yeah. Yeah, I use it. I use scripting. Those who were here in January did the intro to AWS free tier, and then I did an intro to AWS. I manage AWS from command line if possible, and I have a few scripts that I use to do that because I don't want to remember my AWS keys. But I don't need to remember my profiles and stuff like that. So it allows me to not think about things that I shouldn't have to think about. The shebang line, which is pound exclamation. It starts every script, not just Bash. But if you're writing Python, CSH, any shell script, you want to start with a shebang line to set the interpreter. That way Linux knows that you're using Bash and you're not using any other scripting language. That should be the very first line. No spaces in front of the hash. It is literally the first line 1, character 1, bang, line 2, exclamation, then path to the interpreter. So pretty easy. You're not going to see that much in this talk because, like I said, everything I have up here you can do in the command line, so I haven't made files to do it. I may put some example scripts into the repo, so I may not. I might. I'm hoping to. Variables. Variables are a temporary storage space for small pieces of information. So if you want to store a username, and the username could change, create a variable, and you can change it, and that way throughout the script, that same variable name, you don't have to change the command lines, just change the value of the variable. Unlike a lot of scripting languages, you do not need to declare the type of variable. That kind of figures out if it's a letter, it's going to be a text. If it's a number, it's going to be integer or float or whatever. So you don't need to declare the type. Variable can contain any type of data, strings, integers, floats, whatever. This is something, the next is something that I hit or miss whether I do it. It's good when you call your variables to surround the variable name in curly braces. The meaning is if you have a variable name and you don't follow it by white space, and the variable name runs into whatever the next character is. So, for example, you want to list something in a child directory, and the parent directory will change. So you have slash variable name slash readme. The two slashes there, if you don't have curly braces, the variable gets named something slash blah blah blah. Curly braces define where the name of the variable starts and finishes. You don't have to do it all the time, but it's a good habit to get in. And like file names in Linux, try to avoid using spaces in variables, in the data that the variable contains whenever possible, because spaces create issues and it's just makes life easier. There are ways around it, and I'm not going to cover it now. I mentioned one of those variables that you can change to deal with it, and that can give you a start. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, both. Well, actually, you have to avoid the name. It's also much better to avoid it in the data contained. So you have to start thinking about what type of data you have and those things. And when you start using them, you have to realize that if this variable can have spaces in it, you need to do something special. I'm assuming it's going to cover that. So if you put spaces in it, it means you have to program differently. Yeah. And I'm not going to go into detail how, but I will give you a hint that you can start. And well, I've got the IFSs listed. Right. And that's what I'll get into when we talk about special variables in just a moment. Yep. All right. All right, there are other types of variables or special variables we'll talk about next. And then, as I mentioned, there are arrays, which I'm not going to go into. Some of the special variables, $? Will give you the exit code of the last command you've run, which also happens on the command line, but you can use it within a script. $0 will give you the name of your script. $1 through $whatever will give you the script options, the first through whatever option. So if you have two script options, if you have, what's a good example? ls command. ls space minus a is command option 1. If you do minus l, that would be $2. Does that make sense? Because I had a hard time thinking about that. $$ will give you a process ID number of the current script. And then, as I mentioned when I was talking about space, $IFS is the internal field separator. So what you would need to do, it's normally set white space. You happen to have a variable with space in it, you'd need to change the IFS to be something different. So Linux wouldn't interpret that space as the end of a field. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail because it'll be something you'll remember much better if you get frustrated trying to figure out yourself. And also it's kind of a pain to explain. All right, user input. Normally through the read command. You have command plus whatever options followed by the variable that the input will take. Go ahead. Some of the options are P minus P for prompt. So in this example, you have read minus P, enter a number, and then the variable number. If you're following along and you do that, hit enter and it'll say enter a number. You enter a number, hit enter, and that becomes the data that's held within NUM variable. The other one I like to use a lot is minus S. It suppresses output. There are certain times when you might want to have a password, use a password within a script. And it's never, ever, ever a good thing to put hard code a password into a script. Or in the case of, say, AWS, your secret key. You don't want that to people. So you can ask for it. Read minus S. The cursor won't move. You won't see anything like when you enter your password when you're logging in. But it will, in this case, the PASSW variable will contain whatever the password is you put in. Is anyone trying to follow along with me, by the way, and do this stuff? Do you want me to slow down? I don't mind, because I'm going way faster than I really wanted to go. Are any of you new to scripting? Okay. Is this a good enough pace? You're keeping up. Okay. And it's easier to hand right now.
What might set Bash apart from other shells like C shell?
It's because it's what I first learned. Because especially Linux, it's your default shell. So anything like I explained, all the stuff that I examples you can actually run in your command line without going into the Python interpreter or whatever. It your default shell. So it's easier. What I often do is I'll test a command before I put it into a script, and if I know it runs in the line, I know it'll run in my script. They still exist. C shell became morphed into TCSH, which is an extension to it. Still exists. If in the shebang, if you did /bin/sh, you'd still get the Bourne shell and its limitations. It is. Yeah.
It's just like with the GUI. You can pick your own GUI to your heart's content. The difference is, if you want to use Raspberry Pi, you want to have a small print as possible. Bash may be too big. Maybe too many things that you don't need. They need not be fast, and there are things when we get to advanced commands, the C shell or some of the other ones may be able to do better and easier than Bash. So those are the kind of things we have to look at. Now you have to actually know these shells and details to compare them. Bash is just so all over there. So if you want to be an admin, that would be what I focus on right now. And then
Yeah, and I will say I learned on Bash. I have tried to learn Python at various stages throughout my career, and what ends up happening is I'll start to. For me, it helps me to learn by having an objective. I want to write a script to do X, and so I'll focus my learning on how to do that. What ends up happening is because I'm learning it at the same time I'm doing it, it takes longer than if I had done it in Bash, and I get fed up and just go screw it and write it in Bash. Yeah, you really have to have that self-control to say, I'm not going to do this crap in Bash, I'm going to do it in whatever. And now my thing is I need to learn Ruby for my job, so I have to do this. Yeah, and on top of that, I got to learn Chef. So, yeah. Pardon? Okay. So yeah. Go ahead to the next one. All right. So here's an example of where you might want to use the read command. And I bring up if in here. I wasn't sure where to put this slide. I thought it would fit better after read, and we'll talk about if next. So as I mentioned, say you have a script, you want to run a command that needs a password on the command line, but you don't want that command to be the password hard coded in your script. So what you can have here is you've got enter your new password or password, read -s passwd1, and that will suppress the user's output as. But I don't trust myself not to fat finger, or to be dyslexic, or to just totally screw up, and because you can't see what you're typing. So therefore, you want somebody to enter it again, much like the other system when you update your password. So you do that again. Then you have an if statement that will check and make sure that password 1 is the same as password 2. And if it is, then you can have password equals, and that password equals $password, there should be a 1 or a 2 after. I will fix that in a minute.
One other thing, and I'm not trying to embarrass you. I want to point out it's a very typical Bash programming beginner error in this page. Not
I know.
so let's ask the group here if you've done Bash before. Can you see what it is? happens if I put a space in my password?
Oh yeah, quotes.
So very, very often when you do a variable that has string, you want to put it in double.
Yeah.
By
Sorry.
default. Otherwise, what's going to happen is that when Bash opens up the variable, it's going to look like multiple arguments. And then the commands are going to fail and come out with all kinds of weird errors. Or you can inject.
Yeah, and I missed on that because I never use a space in my passwords. I avoid spaces like the plague. But yes, you're right. There should be a quote around this, around all the. Actually, the minus S was that quotes. That's right. So this, and that should all have quotes around them. It'll be quote $, or quote $, curly brace, PASS brace, quote. And double, not single. Yeah.
Let me show you what it looks like. I just made a very simple little thing there. Like variable code username. Can you make it any bigger? No, not at all.
Yeah. So
although
you're off to the side, I can't see P. Larson.
Well, that's true, but it's a problem.
I know.
I mean, that's basically best practices, at least for strings, to put them in rows. Bash becomes very advanced very quick. And there's a very big difference between approach when you get this approach. Let's just stop there.
Quotes won't expand variable. It'll take it literally. Or single quotes.
It gets tricky.
Yeah. That's a good. I just still screwed that up because I'm tired. Okay, single quotes. If that were single quote
I'll do that
he used, yeah, single quote will not expand the variable. Yeah, then $username becomes a string as opposed to being a variable. I left the double quotes out knowing Peter would catch it just so we could have this conversation.
This is a mistake you a lot of times.
Yeah.
Start scripting.
Especially if you get in a hurry and you're trying. My mind was. I put the disclaimer about some of the stuff being crap because I was trying. I blame myself trying to learn.
Double quote is the default you should be using. All that means is that the bash will actually process what's in that string. Which means if you
As a
put
single.
variables and a few other tricks inside of it, if you don't want bash inside of it at all,
Oh, that's fine.
so depending on what, like I would say, if you're doing this example, and you want it to have special characters, bash is not your friend. Okay? There are ways we can tell the interpreter to ignore a lot of features in bash and won't react to certain special characters. But then you have to go, we have a website for certain things that says you cannot put these characters in your password. Guess why?
Because they're too damn lazy. Yeah.
So I would argue, not to throw out information into these days, but after you get to a certain point, bash may not be the right way.
Yeah.
I've seen people that know Python forwards and backwards, and no shame made Python people that, a 3-line bash, again, it's 10 lines of Python code, which makes Python awesome. They're the right tool for the right job.
Yeah.
But it takes them 1 minute to make that 10-line Python code. It might have taken them 10 minutes to the back. Look at it also from that perspective. It is what you know that you use.
Yeah.
If you work in a group,
It is what the group does
Yeah.
that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and all this, I'm not going to cover a lot of this because this is intro, and that's getting beyond an intro stage. That's all stuff that if you go along and you go, shit, this isn't working, you have to look up. Because we'd be here for days if I were to go through all that. So,
Bash is a full programming.
example, if test condition, single or double brackets, or I think there's another option as well, but I've never had an issue with using brackets, so I got in the habit of it. There are differences, and it could affect me at some point, and then I'll worry about it.
Let me give an example. Everything in Linux, programming language, and commands have a return code. They all return success or an error. And because the error code is considered 1 and 5, means that basically, and what can your command you want to run. And that now succeeds, command succeeds. And if it doesn't, you're going to yells and start getting a lot of web things will say, if not command, means command failed, do this. Without doing a condition. Because it's just proving, it's just true false.
Command, your if in the test condition, use the word then. It tells that everything coming is what you want it to do. Lots of stuff you can put whatever you want in there. The only time it'll run is if the test condition. So, whatever. It's up to your imagination. And you always need to close your statement. So if it's FI, and you'll notice later in case it's ESAC. So a lot of times it's just the command backwards. Unless it's due and
And remember the death is on a separate line.
yeah.
That's important. There are other ways, but just put white down. Semicolon means new command. But yes, you can cheat that way.
Yeah. And also, indentation, I indent this to make it a little more readable. Sometimes the indentation in the code sections works, sometimes it didn't. Does not care about indent like other programming languages or scripting languages do. Okay, go. You'll need to do down arrow 3 times. 3 times. Yeah, because I don't know if you noticed while I was doing this, git pitch allows you to highlight parts of the code as you go down and put a separate comment on it. But because I'm not running the slides, it's easier to do it this way. Here's an example, and it is a stupid example. None of my examples are meaningful, but they are easily modifiable to make them mean something. So in this case, you have the command grepping, and it should be grep minus Q for quiet, but I forgot that. Check. Yeah, we all know what grep does. Checks for in all the files in that directory. Again, you have the special variable $? To the return code of the last last command. And then your if statement. If the exit code of the last command is less than 1, so if it's 0, I could have put -EQ space 0, but it's just personal preference. Then echo the command worked. And that's if the $ANS is 0, it'll print that to the screen. If it's not, carries on and does whatever is next in line. And it's that simple. The reason why I made ANSW equal $? Is because, especially the question mark is very volatile, it changes. So I just do it as that extra little insurance that I have the exit code of the command that I want. And it's not gonna change it a little bit. And I apologize. I forgot. Go back up to the read statement. Read. I apologize for going backwards. I have it in my notes and I forgot to put it. Go ahead and go up. One of the other uses I have for read statements is if I want to have a script and I'm debugging, it has it. And at some point, I know the error is before and I want to stop the script before it hits that point. I will put a line in there, read space, and the personal preference for the variable name I use is dummy_var. So I will, it'll do everything, and before it's that command that I don't want it to run, read dummy_var, the script, and I'll hit Control-C. And that way you can debug a script without it actually doing anything by stopping it. So for example, if this was a script and I wanted to make sure password 1 and 2 actually be something that I was reading in, before the if statement, I would do echo PASS1, echo PASSWD2, and then dummy_var. And that way I could see the two. And I can make sure that the script is doing what I want it to do before it goes on and finishes out. And it's a good tool to use when debugging, because script, you just have to remember to remove them, otherwise it gets annoying. That's uses I've found for the read statement. Meant to comment on it. So, all right. Now that I've remembered that, and I've totally screwed up the flow. There's no X on it to make it go away. Oh, there's hide up there. Okay, go back to where we were. Sorry about that. The next is if-else statement. It again uses a test with the binary output to determine the path. In this case, if the condition ends up false, you can do something else. Carries on. The syntax is very similar. If test condition, then do whatever. Then on the, much like then statement, it has to be on its own. And then do different stuff, and as always, close out. One of the biggest things when I was doing loops that I would keep forgetting is to close out my statements. And so every time I'm going to repeat that over and over again for the rest of this presentation. You will get tired of hearing me tell you to close them out, but it saves a lot of pain. Okay, next. an example going back to the grep hello, you have answer less than 1. If grep doesn't find it, I need to code E1. So if it finds it, it'll say command worked. If it doesn't, in this case, it'll say I can't find hello anywhere. Yeah. This is just a example. If you were, as I said, you can do it from, write it just. It would do it from a particular directory that you're sitting in. In the case of you having it, would run from the directory your script sits in, unless you specify the directory in your grep. You could put a path before the start. Minus R. Grep space minus R. Hello. Location. Yeah. Yeah, that easy. Dash X will work as well. And the two combined are real time. It's been doing until it gets to the. Yeah, if you don't mind.
Not exactly the same, but more or less. Well, you want it bigger again? Okay. Sorry about that. Is that big enough? Same script. I did a little trick with the echo. I can go into that, but all that does is make a new line. So if I run that right now, hello, hello, and match, nothing. It's a very basic script.
Can
But
you?
if I go in and do this, oops, before I do that. Every time you do that, you want to end the script like that, otherwise you're going to have a bad day.
Can you do it on the shebang line? /bin/bash space minus X. And then you wouldn't have to unset it at the end. Yeah, as I mentioned at the beginning, there is more than one way to do it.
So this is exactly what X does. Right? It does not give me necessarily the content variables, but it does tell me what's going down. And when I do an echo to show, or in the if statement, I'm comparing stuff. I can compare. So it actually gets me to flow, but you want to be very careful when you put these values. Otherwise, you're going to get it.
That's true.
That said, this is probably the first thing you learn on the advanced setting. That set has its options where you control how fast we get. There's a setting in there that can turn it on and off.
You can yeah. Here put set minus X, set plus X. If you put it here, the set plus X, then the X would only work in this section. If you know, if it's a script, you can do bin bash space minus X, and that will do the whole. Yeah. Yeah, it would be, you do set minus X, run your commands. You don't need this. Oh, no. This one could be. Good for your phone. So yeah, so that would be if then, or if else. So go on.
So I use that construct too.
Yeah. And then finally there's if elif. And that allows you to kind of nest if statement, but not a full nesting. So for example, it takes a test with a binary output to determine the path, and then it uses further tests to provide different paths. So the format for it is if test condition, then do blah, blah, blah. elif, you have a second, and it'll do blah, blah, blah. So if the first test doesn't work, it'll run the second test. And then else at the end. Neither of those two tests does contain an else. Because I forgot it. Good catch, thank you. That's two things I have to go through and check. All right, go on. And it might not exist on my example either, because like a good scripter, I didn't test it. And of course it's not. So, yes. I should have had it. All right. So, actually, go back up because, yeah. So, in this example, ANSW equals 6. The first test checks if ANSW is less than 1, which in this case it isn't. So then it checks if it's less than 5, and again, it's not, so it doesn't do either of those first two echoes. However, actually, that should have, yeah, less than 10. I meant to do another LN. Well, yeah. Yeah, I'm correct by accident. Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah. So I got it right by accident. As I mentioned, mistakes. So that's all right. And of course, closing statement. Please don't forget that. All right. So case statement. It gives several different paths depending on the result of a single condition. And you have case expression in case 1. The break is not. If you do not put the break in there, your case statement will never exit. You're stuck in that case statement forever. So at some point, there's got to be some option, expression, some option in there that allows you to break out of the case statement. Once you break, it'll continue with what? No. If you don't out of the case statement, if you don't have break in there, right? It stays. It's. Oh. Okay. Yeah. It just stays within the case statement. You're wasting processing time, and you're going, why the hell is it not doing what's next? Because it doesn't repeat. Well, you'll see I've got a select case statement coming up in a bit. So, all right. And of course, end it with E. Or our conditions. So, this is one that doesn't quite fit on here, and it is kind of sort of real world. So what we have in there is disk equals, and then it does a df minus h. It basically just takes if you bring out the whole, takes the percentage of each partition and sorts it numerically and takes the highest number. And so if you have a disk that is 5%, or in this case, 90 to 98% use, it'll tell you seriously one partition is blah blah full. And it's just a quick example, very similar to the formatting. Go ahead. I like my select example a little better. That's why I'm not pushing. Hold on, I think I missed. And also the case statement. It's as I said earlier, you can nest if statements, so you can say if something's true, then if something else is true, then this the case statement allows you to one command instead of have to close out all of them. The select statement can create a menu. The choices are the user. It'll show blah 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 blah, and the user pick 1 through whatever your last option is, and then it'll convert that to whatever the item is. And I don't think I have an actual example of that, so it's going to be hard. Can you do a quick select statement? Just a select statement just to show you, or yeah. Doing that. Any questions so far? What, this? That tells you what directions to go in the slide. So the fact there's an arrow down tells topics. Like these so cross and then down, up, then down. It just tells you what. If you look, when he gets to the last end of this case statement, this bottom arrow will disappear, and the down arrow won't work. It's just a thank you. And then the hamburger on the other side, menu of options, like you can, a couple of the options are to create a PDF of the slideshow, or you can line up for anything except yeah. So it's in the command in the DF, at least on my system. There's snap, and I forget the whole line, but snap is in there. I don't want that line, so -V will ignore that. And it's a way. In the grep command, a lot of people will do, for if you're doing a PS looking for a process, a lot of people will do grep minus whatever, or PS minus whatever, grep the process, so Firefox, and then pipe that to grep minus grep. So that output won't give you your grep command, which 99 times out of 100 will show up with that. 99 times out of 100. I know. It's so. Okay, so here's a select case. So he's got select variable 1 in, and then menu 1, 2, 3, and yep. So when he types 1, it'll take the 1 and make it ONE. So that confused me at first. When I first started doing this, I would put this as the number 1, as in that menu item. But it's not. You want it to be what you specifically run. And so,
Makes sense?
does that make sense? I will put better examples, yes. Actually, what I'll probably do is I'll have a separate file in the Git repo. So if you clone my, I'll have a file with examples. And that'll probably be a better way to do it. Then you can just either run that whole file and see the examples happen, or you can cut and paste them as you wish. So yeah, I'll work tonight after my nap. Hey, I was going to walk 2 dogs for a mile each time. Later than I wanted to last night. I wish I could say I was drinking beer and doing that, but I'm a good procrastinator. And I procrastinated well for this. All right. So now the other thing is, if you look at this, if you made a file 1 and you put server on each line, actually, yeah, and you put server names on each line. So it's almost to give you a menu of servers. Yeah. So I've created a file called file, and in it, each line has a the dollar parentheses cat file 1 close parentheses. It's that, and that's your menu. So 1, then spelled 1, 2, spelled 2, 3, blah blah. Server 1, server 2, 3, server 3, and then exit. Now, the reason for that is I put exit in there because I will a standalone script and I want to get out of the script. So when you're creating your case statement, your exit has to come, anything you want has to come before that asterisk. Expands like card to mean anything. So any input will be captured by asterisk, and it'll SSH whatever. Are you doing an exam? Okay. Pardon? But I'll do a better example of that when I do the other examples. But always make sure the exit case is going to be the star, because the star caught it. Does that make sense? I didn't explain that well, but yeah. What I realize now, I should have, along with the example, so I'll know better next time. The done closes the select statement. If you see the select statement, select and it would do, and then the done closes out. Thank you. And then ESAC closes out. So you have two loops, conditional statements, whatever you want to call them. Select. Close them. Okay, go. Right. All right, so next we have, and this is kind of the last one I have examples for, so we are going to finish early. Three main types of loops: for, while, and until. While and until are very similar in how they work and what they do. You can accomplish the same thing both usually. But we'll go ahead now. So a for loop, it iterates through a list. Most of the time, I use it mostly with numbers for I in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And kind of like the equivalent of than in an if statement. And then you close out your statement. We're done. Okay. Go. And an example. This will literally just print out numbers. So in range is 1.5 close curly. And that's a regular expression. 1, 4, 5. And that's very helpful if you have ranges of numbers to do. And all that does is, as I said, it echoes the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can. I'm not as on regular expressions as I'd like, but I'm sure there is a way to do it with a regular expression. Something to look up. Yeah, sequence. Yeah, that would be better for doing 1, 3, 5 type. The for loop I use from the command line. I use for loops more than any other conditional statements. It's very, very helpful to use on different items. And somebody raised their hand. It's not a different format. The regex is regex. Oh, no. Like I said, I'm not, regex I don't do. Oh, yeah.
Major kinds of
Oh, Perl. You feel bad for learning Ruby. I feel for anyone who has to learn Perl. Pardon? Any language that has a competition to write the most obscure and hard to read code is not something I want to learn that much. Yeah. Yeah. So, and as always, close out your loops. Okay. While loops, they perform actions while a condition is true. So in this case, while condition do opens up the loop. It does whatever it wants to do, and then close. I use for. I do that. Okay, I use them, but I like using for. Like while I use to monitor stuff, or I use to do stuff. So go ahead. All right. So in this case, we have equals 0. And while x is less than 10, the conditional is similar to those in the if statements, but mostly, quite often you'll use them in the arithmetic operators. So while x is less than 10, echo x, let x equals $1, which just increments. You can also do let x equals $x plus plus. I just felt like writing it out to make it more legible. Sleep 1, done. So essentially, I create a second timer, and it throws up 0 through 9 on the screen, 1 every second. Very simple. Because of sleep 1, we'll pause it for a second. No. No, sleep is, in bash sleep is in seconds. You can use .5 for half a second, I think. 0.5. I haven't timed it. I should. Damn it, I changed that. All right, the command there says while, but we'll just pretend it says until. Because copy and paste works sometimes. Not all the time. So I think I changed it in the example. So while condition is true, or until condition becomes true, do your 0 through timer. Go ahead. Okay, so again, this does the exact same thing, and I did change it there. Yay. This does the same thing as the while loop. X is less than 10. Do this. It says until x is greater than equal to do this. Do the exact same thing. Yeah, one goes by truth. Do this while it's true, and the other do this until it's true, or until it's true. While it's true, and until stops when it's true. It's just a different approach. Opposite approach to the same thing. Okay. And finally, functions. Functions are reusable bits of code. They cut down on the file size by reducing repetition. So if you find yourself typing the same block of code in your script over and over again, you're probably better off making it a function. Function must be defined in the script before the function is called. Normally, all functions define script. Whether it's after, I normally, at the beginning of the script, I have variables that and then my functions, or if I don't have variables that change, I'll start with all my functions. That way, they're all defined, and you don't have to worry about the timing. And the syntax for creating and calling a function. And there are more than one way. There is more than one way to call a function. I'm just showing this example because it's easiest. So function, the name of your function, again, no spaces. Open curly brace, your block of commands, close the curly brace. to call it, ways to call it. You either call it just name and it'll run block of code, or if you want to pass a variable, you pass that variable. So name foobar. The way that variable is the equivalent to $1 special variable, $2 special variable. So, and I believe it's only valid within the scope of that function. So once the function finishes, that variable's gone. Some of the another for functions, if you have a series of commands you run often, or situations you want to configure often, some people will write a functions script, so to speak, and they'll run it from we'll call it. And so basically your functions are like aliases on steroids. Instead of having alias LA equals LA, have a function that does the same thing. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head. I used to do it. One of my jobs had something specifically for the product we ran. Instead of having to remember all the commands, I just wrote functions that created them. And it was easier. So go through and functions and yep. All right, and again, remember.
A dollar sign. So,
Like that. But no, I understand. It's kind of what you're talking about. So right.
so the right way to do this, and maybe we should cover why that is, but the right way to actually do variables.
Two curly? Single.
Is that, so as you can see, in this case I get the same thing. What happens if I have a path? So let's say I want to say in this kind of direction, files. Let's say I want to create a script that can one of these files will get
make your variables, and then do that. Stop it.
What I want, basically what I want to do is to attach. If I did, remove the space. There's no variable called that. So the only way to do this is to literally put it in these brackets. This is where variable else is something else. And there can be no confusion about the variable name. You have data, a variable that needs to be put together with something else. And sometimes there's spaces around. It doesn't matter. Sometimes that's not the case, like here. So just using curly brackets all the time. Oh, yes, we haven't got into talking about Bash manual is extreme, has a lot of cool features. Like you can say, here's this variable content, but if there's no value, it's bad. That's one thing. Is this content with this content? Like replace all S's with Z's or whatever you want to do. And it can all be done as the way you prefer. And it applies the syntax and a lot of other funky characters. Where you stop. Version of this is to use just dollar. That was what we started out with, and you can still find scripts that are doing this. I'm having trouble doing because we talked about some commands can be hard to find. A lot of the bash commands, the only thing that helps bash commands. So if you don't know, if it's a built-in and knowing what's built-in and what's not can be trouble. But you can say help while, for instance, and you get a very short description. You don't have to look for it in the bash command. You can say help until so on. It will give you the idea. I also want to show how to do math. So it's a very fast way of just now, the spaces are very important. It will not work without spaces.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the brackets in the test. It's in your condition for if, or if, while, and until. You need space, your condition, space, then close the bracket. I meant to mention that as well.
But the way you learn is by doing. This guy I've actually sent to several people. It's very, mention it. It's very good. It's very informative.
1104.
Yeah, you can find him a lot of reviews. So,
Yep.
great little book. If you like it on paper.
If you buy it from O'Reilly directly, they'll give you multiple e-formats as well, and you're not. Well, yeah, but if you buy the ebook on Amazon, you only get Kindle. If you buy the ebook on you get EPUB, Mobi, PDF, and HTML. There's another publisher, Pact Publishing, and Pact often will sell their ebooks for $5 or plus every day they give away a free ebook. One of the places, one of the places I like Pact Publishing free book, because if you go to their root website and there's a yellow free learning box on that, it'll show you the book for the day. Disclaimer, I do tech editing for Pact Publishing. They actually with Pact, you don't get paid for doing tech editing. They pay their authors, but not their editors. So I don't do it for money, but they give you a free year. Their equivalent to Safari, which is called Mapped. P-A-C-K-T. Yeah. And their website, PACKTP.com. Yeah. If you scroll down a little bit, if you go to their website, there's a yellow box that says free learning. You do have to sign up for an account with them to get the free books. I will say they don't really spam that much. You will get their marketing spam. It's not horrible. It's not like some places. And to get free books out of it, I'll tolerate 3 or 4 emails a week. They're not, quality is not quite as good as, but they are a decent publisher.
I learned Bash, the advanced Bash, got the old system. Now we use system D, and a lot of that is now just and you will find that if you really know the power of programming in Bash, those scripts will show you that. And I just pulled out one of the old ones. And so it will give, some single basic suggestion.
And also, exclamation point means not. Whereas this says if that exists, if it does not exist. Yes. It wasn't in the slide. So some of them were paying attention. System B. Yeah, like, using System B in 1604, I think.
There's been a several, they've all been Bash based. Everything I remember is Bash. Scripting just started in 0101. It could be pretty advanced, but really learns cool tricks by looking at it. Dot didn't go into the word expo and how environment variables. All that basically says is all the variables defined by this script needs to be useful by this script. So that's the little dot is also most programmers are lazy, they want to do some stuff. So
Yeah.
if you're idea of being able to read it as humans, but
we were just bashing on Perl.
yeah, exactly. You're bashing up. This one is also very interesting. Check network heads up. So you don't need to say if. It basically says if that first command, the brackets, left bracket is exactly a command. When you build a directory, you'll find that as a command. yes, the and means I will continue. It will go to the exit. Instead of writing, say, any variable is not. That's makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
but
to the back practice, you will be explicit, but it will exit with 0 as everything went fine. Any error should come up with a number higher than 0. And very advanced script will have a set of numbers we can basically document it. If it returns with 1, it means this. If it returns with 2, look at the exit code. Okay, is this a real error or can I? So anyway, this is the way that has been the most useful for figuring out what to do. And how do I click?
I briefly, Windows 10, my new job, when they gave me the laptop, it took me a little while to realize I could put Linux on it. And I put Ubuntu on it. Yes, it's still there. And in fact, Red Hat owns that one still, don't they?
Um, PowerShell has been released and most Java.
Yeah. It yeah, I
Is
it's not a command.
they partner with
System D
several
is
subsystem under Windows.
that's when you do a Google search, search it like that.
So it actually stops a real Linux kernel.
Okay, you know how your bash profile, .bash underscore profile, and .bash RC, they're not executable files. They're,
There's all kinds of
you can execute it by putting source space .bash RC. We'll run a bash RC file. Shorthand for source, you can just use a dot. Say dot space dot bash RC, and that will run the bash RC, even though it's not executable.
No longer have to deal with the Linux doesn't work, Linux is not
I
the other way around.
Yeah, that will bring your system to its knees. At the yeah, it creates it's working out processes until it bogs your system down. And it'll bring your system to combine. Get it? Literally just type that right there.
It's not like wine and Linux
Literally
that,
just type that on the command line and give it about 3 or 4 minutes and your system will be done working. It won't break it, but you'll have to hard reset.
It's just a matter of
You won't even be, you have to hit the power button or on a take away the power.
But anyway, these scripts are still around. There's no way I've ever learned. Just so people recommend us. Look it up or run it, see what happens. The best way to I've ever from a programming perspective to look it up. Reading the guides, the syntax diagram, should be really good. Look at something and you go, holy crap, I can write this.
Which is kind of why I gave snippets, because you can take what I've done and modify it to fit your needs. That dot right there, you can also say a source. That's what I was saying. It's a way to run. For example, Etsy and init.d functions is not an executable file. Maybe. Well, it doesn't. No, don't. It doesn't have to have. It doesn't have to have executable permissions for you to be able to source it and run it. But what I try, I use dot is if I make a change to my batch RC file and I want my dot bash RC the most when I use it the most.
Functions are mainly what logic that says, well, I look at the computer, determine what features I need to do, stuff that counts parameters to the runs. So that's usually why we do this. Remember, in Linux, so if I have calling another script, it will call another process. Then it has a separate memory space, and the variables are separate. Now, the first thing that happens comes over variables that are when it's done, it just deletes that process, which means all the stuff that it's set goes away. So in order to avoid that, I do actually do to take that variable and put it in the space of the other process that called it. Don't say export, it won't work, but export it. Don't say here. So it will get into my process without noting inside the scripts. These are advanced scripts, and this is not where you start. But once you have done the basic thing that you want to do, what stuff can I do? There's a lot of stuff. In Etsy, IT, which probably all their system style scripts right now, you will a couple. Even on Ubuntu. But network is still around. Sometimes stuff is not going. So that startup system is still around. And then, so you can look at how the network notice how this can be done. I mean, this is not fair. Notice that interface line. I think anyone here should know what it does right now. It can be very, very cryptic. And that's okay. You don't need to learn all of them. I can still skip and learn some of the other ones. Now you can go down here and there's a case statement. Notice that it's not just one line anymore. I can do a lot. Right? But there's a lot of, it becomes easy to recognize as you start going, oh, that's what it does. Now I can actually understand how things work. It's case sensitive, but basically,
Yeah, put
it's
that
a variable
lowercase.
that is set to tell the locale,
Sorry.
that tells it what language to speak. So you can change your bash prompt to talk German, or French, or whatever, by just setting a variable. Tell it, when you put numbers in, this is the format I want. When dates, this is the format I want. It's all controlled by a variable. And that's what LC does. Again, what the individual things are doing here is not really the point. What LC here tells it is to go ignore language perspective, because some languages will change the way commas and decimal points work. For instance. So it's basically what are all these special characters? Something weird because I'm running a different country. But you can set this to actually say, well, I want to act like I'm in Germany, so now my comments are my decimal points.
Up there at the top, you're using mash, mash rate. And the last line, that's
This is a combination of, you don't know set that line goes.
Yeah. And you can talk in there.
Because this is open source, a lot of people do it. There's a lot of comments in here, which also tells you. But I like comments. And then, yes.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be, but it makes it more readable.
Look at all the stuff that we've already covered that this advanced script tells you what to do.
And it's also a starting point. It's, I treated it like a primary. It's you starting points to go out and look for things. Yeah.
So it sounds like you bounce around a lot. You add with some of the more advanced bash things so that you keep your scripts that you maintain around with you.
More portable. Yeah.
This isn't the only. That's pretty big.
Yeah. I like the KISS principle. I try to keep things as simple as I can because it's more portable, and if somebody else needs to deal with something I've written, and I'm not the best at commenting.
So our mail guy, our mail manages a lot of non-systems too. And this is why you've seen him post all the time, so he's very adamant about why he's not using Bash. Even though it is an open source project and it technically is available on console libraries, Unix and all that, it may not JavaScript and doesn't use any of the new stuff because and you may not be able to somebody. I'm not going to install software just because you think it's a better system.
All right. I want to thank Ridgeline again for the new space. So
Last week there was 70 signed up, and I think it jumbled, so we ended up
I also want to thank Mark for and the stuff out there. He paid for it and can't claim it as marketing expense. He did it himself. So, thank you very much, Mark. Like I said, next week will be Sheridan and will be in Tyson's, and when I figure out what we'll have talking about, I will update the meetup and let people on the list know.